goes, hey, everybody. My name is Ryan with Lebanon Now. I'm here with Lucian Toma.
Yeah.
All right, we got it. Yes, from Romania. And you're one of the owners at Sun and Bloom Farms. And we've talked a little bit, and I've always wanted to do a podcast that's somewhere in the vein of interesting people. David Millsap does a great show on our network called In the Box, and it's more like a law and order and a specific thing. But I've always wanted to do, hey, I watched this guy on Facebook. We've met a few times. We've talked a few times. And I'm like, this guy's an interesting dude. I'm just going to invite him into the room and we're going to sit down because you don't find too many people from Romania here in Lebanon, Missouri. Like you just don't. I don't think there's a big Romanian community here. You also, the little bit I know about you, you have a great past. You're educated. You come in, but you're very eco-friendly and you're wanting to build this farm. So, I guess the big first question is, how do you end up in Lebanon, Missouri?
Lebanon, Missouri.
Yes. Yeah. Lebanon, Missouri. Like I know a little bit of your route, but my viewers and people aren't going to know it. So yeah, just take us through how you get to Lebanon, Missouri.
Should we start with day one?
Sure.
Well, I'll give you the short one. Okay. So, how did I get here? I mean, simply put, I've been traveling to the Lake of the Ozarks for the past 20 plus years, probably 25 years. I got to think about it. Yeah, 25 plus years. And so almost every year. And so I would fly into St. Louis. And so my American family that brought me here, we'll get there.
Yeah.
They really loved the back roads. And we would drive the back roads from St. Louis Airport all the way to Camdenton, Missouri, where we spent, a week or 10 days or something like that at the lake. And so I really loved those roads. They reminded me of home. And so I said, one day when I'm going to have a family and I'm going to settle down and all that, I'm going to come somewhere here. The barns, the greenery, the open space and all that. So, when I started the family about, 8 years ago, we have 2 children now and all that. I said, hey, we should look for a place to go. And actually it was a combination of planned and reactionary to world affairs and all of that. And I said, let's see, where could we go where I could do all these amazing things that I want to do? And so, County of Laclede. You can build an airport on your property if you really wanted to.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of regulations in the county.
So I was like, I'm not going to build an airport, but this definitely fits with the type of work that I want to do. So, I looked in the area a lot, and then I had to convince my wife, Anna Maria. She's from Reno, Nevada, and lived in California. And so she's like, Lebanon, Missouri.
Missouri. Yeah.
She's like, oh no.
I don't think that we're on the bottom list of anywhere to live, but we're definitely not at the top. Like we are in that forgotten middle, like Missouri. Like I have a feeling if you ask like anybody that doesn't live in Missouri where Missouri is on a map, it's just one of those states people are like, I don't know.
We were so fortunate and blessed that the 8 days that we came here, it was 80 degrees beautiful in August, And she's like, okay, I can do with this. It's not flat. It's like, because that's, there's a lot of preconceived conceptions that, just I'm working through right now. Too.
Yeah.
Just in general, just life, world, countries, nationalities, Lebanon, Missouri.
Yeah.
So, but, it's beautiful to be open to it and then have that beautiful span of days that, I've been here this is year 5. So, it's not what I thought. Absolutely. In a good way.
Yes. And I think I'm kind of weird. I don't know if there's a good or bad way. I've got, been lucky. I've traveled a lot in North America. I've never left North America, but I've traveled a lot in North America. Okay. And there are a lot of cultural differences just from state to state to place, like humongously. And I know you coming from European country and over in there, I don't think one of the big things that I hear from people from the European countries is they didn't realize how big the United States was, right?
Yeah.
And that how many cultures we actually have and how it differs. Kentucky and Tennessee aren't that far away, and the accent is like day and night, not just a couple hours away.
I'm grateful that we all speak English, to an extent.
To an extent, yes. Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. So, I know you were telling me that you wanted me to share a little bit about where I come from. I think what's beautiful, in my career, I've learned this kind of process of communicating, I don't know, an idea or a story. One is like start with the future, like a possibility in the future. So I'm very connected to this idea, this beautiful idea, and living in this ecologically abundant community, where there's beautiful food and amazing gatherings and safety and peace. And, Lebanon has a lot of that, actually, compared to a lot of places that I've been.
Oh, yeah.
Some pieces of it, absolutely. So I'm all about being part of that, I don't know, there's some movies out there that kind of like depict this beautiful utopian future, if you want to call it, right? So I think that's possible. I know there's a lot of conversation out there in the world of, there's so much difficulty, there's so much trouble, quoting Bob Marley right there.
Yeah.
So much trouble in the world. But that's what I'm all about. I'm about a beautiful, peaceful, amazing future for children of all species, really. And so then coming to the present, like, what am I doing for that? So we have this land at Sun and Bloom Farms, and it's more than a farm. I call it a permaculture farm school village, because not only that we grow food in a way that is just easy to grasp and kind of like inspiring for people. You mean to tell me that you're growing food without having to buy fertilizers or, pesticides and herbicides? And I say, yeah, there is a process to get there, but absolutely, how did the people do it before we had ships going around the world, bring in, fertilizers from who knows where, right? And so, so I'm saying, in the present, I'm looking how important it is for me to stay rooted in this work and say, I'm all about teaching people about this. How do we do things locally? How can we be independent and absolutely still be part of the world, like in an interdependent kind of way, because the world does influence our local little community in all kinds of ways, right? Again, just talking about fertilizer or petroleum, gas, and all that. And so, looking towards that future is like, I feel like that's a big piece of, of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't live without food for too long, right?
No, that's generally accepted practice to stay alive. Yeah.
Yeah. And water and all that. So what we do on the farm, we walk the talk, right? And talk the walk in the same time. And so that's the present. We're a working farm that's inviting people in to teach and talk about, how would it look like if we were resilient in the face of, regional, global, national, even local disruptions, right? I mean, because that's how we all, human nature is like, how do I survive all these things on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people, my children included, that are losing those survival skills as you go, though. Like when you were talking about not being able to, people don't understand, I can farm without fertilizers, I can farm without this. Every generation loses a little something if we don't pass that on. And as far as survival goes, seeds are pretty robust. You plant them, they grow. Bugs are pretty robust. You plant a seed, they eat the food, right? So you have to find some barrier to that. Now, chemicals make things quicker and easier, but are they healthier? Is that going to be sustainable? Is that going to be? And it's not. And in a world, and I have zero medical license as I say this, in a world where there's influxes of mental disorders and anxieties and autisms and all of these things or whatever. I don't know if that was just so underdiagnosed 50 years ago, or if all the Wi-Fi, the chemicals, all the things are causing those things. And a lot of people say out and go, there's no correlation, but I have eyes, I see, so is there some correlation?
Yeah. Well, maybe my personal story could bring some light into that. I think, what's beautiful to look at is to say, we're pretty disconnected on how life actually works. Mm-hmm. We know how the phone works, mm-hmm. Facebook, Instagram, whatever, how to turn on, we knew how to turn on the TV and listen to what's the world all about.
Yeah.
There's this conversation of misinformation mm-hmm. or disinformation, right? But I think what's missing, it's a missing information. Like we don't talk about, what's air?
Yeah, right.
How do trees and food grows and, mm-hmm. So being disconnected from that, we think like, yeah, food comes, it's on the shelves. It's right. Somebody does it.
Yeah.
And that takes from that resilience of a local community. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't exist, that knowledge, well, I don't know. Maybe the roads are broken or something.
Right.
There's a big flood or a tornado or whatever, 1 week, So how I'm looking at it is like, yeah, we're disconnected from how things work. I think it's important to look at it. I feel that just from experience, people just don't put time into that. A lot of the conversation is like equated with so many others because there's so much. And it's so incredible that people know about, when you talk about ecological farming, maybe that's connected with like climate change conversation mm-hmm. or some other things out there. Yeah. So immediately, and you can be tagged being of a particular political persuasion or religious persuasion mm-hmm. or anything like that, right? So, for 25 years, I would not go anywhere else. I mean, mm-hmm. this is where I want to be. And it's been this has been a change just since I've been in Lebanon, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've had the experience. I lived in San Clemente, California on the beach with an ocean view for, 13 years. And then in Hawaii, also beach, ocean view, 7 mm-hmm. years, ate mangoes and papayas freely from the street. And now I'm in Lebanon, Missouri. And a lot of people are asking me, what the heck are you doing there? I just love the cultural experience. No, it's truly beautiful. I hope one day I'll have that. I know I will have that time to kind of like share that in a way that, again, that brings value, not like, look at me, I've done all of these great things. So back to that, to like tag and all that, I know like, if I just walk around, I'm a white dude, I know how to dress to look like, the local people until I open my mouth, right? So there's absolutely of like, what's going on there, So, but anyway, so again, that's a future vision that I'm attached to. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes with, I think there's so many beautiful doors that knowledge about how Earth, how nature works. It opens so many things. It teaches people how we can work with each other. There's so many things to say about that. And then in the present, I'm working in that. And then my past, what's so interesting, and I know you wanted to go there.
If you do, I'm not asking you to talk about anything you don't feel comfortable with.
I think it's beautiful because I see a lot of the pieces of my growing up, like in the local culture mm-hmm. here. Like I said, I was in San Clemente, I was in Hawaii. It's so crazy. We're all the same. Mm-hmm. Our cultures have the same basic pieces, kind of like, I don't know if it all started from one point, that is one theory, right? Or if it kind of like developed individually, some of these things. I can't remember to cite the books on this, but it's interesting to see that. It's interesting to experience that. But anyway, I grew up in 2 homestead environments. One of them had no electricity, no water. Up in the mountains, small village, 100 people. The text message was like, Johnny, your chickens are out. Mary, your cow is in my orchard. Kind of things like, there were so many beautiful, amazing mm-hmm. things. And so that was like one environment. I think what I saw from there.
And this is in Romania? This
is in Romania, up in the mountains. Not in the Dracula part of Romania.
Oh, well.
In the across the mountain. And I watched my grandma. My grandpa wasn't around. He died in 1983. I was born in 1982. But I saw my grandma on my mom's side. She mostly lived by herself, grew most of her food. She had a few really cool skills. She was making brandy from plums. She had a plum orchard that was, planted by the family. And so that was a very good exchange item in the village. So anything that she couldn't grow for herself, for example, food, she would be able to barter the plum brandy. She had a loom.
Okay.
And she was making rugs and blankets with that. And she also had the skills to make natural dyes for the fibers. And so also knew how to work with the wool, right? And she also knew, so the house was basically a wood wood beam and cob. Okay, so cob is basically something that you find almost everywhere in the world. Clay, sand, straw, water. So the house was, made out of that. And so it needed repairs every year, every spring. So she knew how to source those things, how to mix them, fix the house, while she also knew how to use plants to make natural dyes to make the paint for the house. And I mean, it looked beautiful. People would probably pay, $1,000 a night to go live in a space like that. It was cool in the summer and it kept the warmth in the winter. And so what's so interesting is that cob is emerging right now like one of the most amazing new technologies in the United States in places like all the dry West, but it's also working in other pieces, and the Native Americans of different places were working with cob in different ways too. It's like, there must have been Romanians.
Isn't there, and I'm probably wrong about the material, but wasn't there some Native American or indigenous cultures in Colorado that just made a whole mountainside basically out of
adobe, which is the same mix, only that they made bricks way before we made bricks.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, I mean, this is, and I love how people are like, hey, it's a new technology.
No, absolutely not. However, what's so beautiful is that there's so much amazing research and investment into that, into transforming the landscape of building with that. Because again, energy efficiency, if we want to talk about that, right? I would call it more energy effectiveness, right? So how does it work right now? We'll go into this really quick. You build a house from these materials that come from around the world. It's really fast. That's the most important part of it, right? Heat and cold, if you didn't have anything in the house, it would just go through the walls. It would influence that inside. And then we blow air conditioning in the summer, and then using a lot of electricity or heat, right? Very ineffective. Just losing it. The cold is like leaking somehow, some way. The heat is like in the summer, right? Compared to this material, right? That's the walls are super thick. That cob material and the wood, they're like a thermal mass. So that means that when the sun hits it from the outside, it starts to charge the wall, kind of like the heat is penetrating and it's not going through like a regular wall, right? Anyway, so that means what happens during the day, the heat is kind of penetrating in the wall, it doesn't reach inside, so it stays cool inside. And then at night, when it's cooler, it starts to release the heat inside the house. But now you open the windows and the cool from the outside comes in. So, I mean, just these beautiful things that I had to actually learn in college, how they work. They were right there for me. Yeah. People have been doing it for all this time. My grandma... it's so interesting. She taught me how to read and how to do math, but she only went to school for 4 years. So, I mean, pretty crazy. So, what's so interesting is that I was living in this world that later on made full circle. And I ran away from it originally. My other grandma was in town. And so they were connected to electricity and water, but they were practicing everything else. Their house was made out of brick. So they weren't able to fix it with things from nature. They still had to go and buy things at the store and all that. But what's interesting with them is that, Grandpa was a butcher and she was a seamstress. So those were like their main skills. But grandpa also made amazing wine, and grandma also made amazing preserved food. So they always had something to trade, a skill or a product that they were able to make. So this is what got them through. Imagine they lived their entire life through communism. And communism kept on squeezing people, all of these goods. Yeah. And so, man, they had to do it. They were hard times. But here's where I wanted to transition to. So 1989, the system is gone. People are like, yay. And so the market is free. It's open. People are coming in. All kinds of businesses, all kinds of ideas, all kinds of, goods and everything. And of course, it's like, oh, here's this beautiful, amazing market of people that have no clue. They're going to be so excited. So there was a lot of good stuff coming in, but there was a lot of stuff dumped also by all these people that understood what happens to a country that transitions from one system to another. It's been seen in history for a long time. And of course, the people, the big corporations with all this big, amazing things that they were making, they knew that. We didn't know it as a people, right? So why I wanted to do that transition is that, yeah, we had a communist regime that was like putting so much pressure. We had no access to anything. So we had to create this kind of like black market of food and skills. And, you had to learn not only how to do these things, but also how to be in community. I mean, because there were eyes everywhere, right? So people had to trust each other. People had to have good relationship. People had to know how to read people. Is he an informant? Well, 1 out of 2 people was an informant.
Yeah.
And that's what scarcity does. And that's why, again, back to the future, resilience in the local, when there is scarcity, people will turn and become different kind of beasts. There's so much history on that. So after what happened, you would think that more people would have more things, but that wasn't the case, because now there was so much to be distracted from. I was I'm really grateful to the church I go here. I think it opened up my eyes probably even more than my master's degree. How just kind of like looking at this idea that in that time when there was all the freedom to do all the things that you could, people had to focus still on survival. I mean, there were piles of trash on the street, dogs running around, a crazy market with everybody doing something, big factories closing because nobody knew how to manage them in the free market, So a lot of the people that came and bought it from the outside, the investors, I mean, they wanted to make profit, so they managed it in a specific way. But where I wanted to get with this is that opening of the market didn't necessarily create this amazing abundance and transformation and help for everybody. It continued to be a struggle. Now everything was on the shelves, but people didn't have money for that. So those skills remained important. But one thing that happened is that now we saw the West. Now we saw how people lived here. It's like, they must know something. I have to go. I have to go see what they do. I want to live like that, because it just wasn't possible in this system. It feels like there were very few winners. I mean, it almost makes me think about like the Wild Wild West, right? Like everybody started in an empty space, but whoever had more resources and more knowledge, right, did better in the wild, right? So it was beautiful to see now what was important in that process. And so that was, I was there for 7 years during the communist regime, kind of like seeing that. And then another, until 2000 and, when did 9/11 happen?
2001.
I got my visa one day before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So nothing happens for no reason.
Yeah.
I know that. We'll get there. Yeah. Just looking back at what, again, making that comparison with what I'm seeing in society right now, like when there's all this abundance of all these opportunities, it's just so incredible to me that there's such a lean, like so many people in community. Again, like, and I don't want to like say, oh, there's them and that there's us and there's some, I'm smart and there's some people smart. Because again, I've been in it too. Just what was important to me, how my clothes looked like, where could I go on a Friday as a 15-year-old, in Romania for the longest time. If your head was over the bar and you put your money there, give me a beer. They will give you a beer and cigarettes and all that. So it's so interesting that our community went in that direction, like big piece of it. And the highest rate of divorce and, then people also trying to figure out how to get out of that system. And so one of the father or the mother would go to a different country and then send money back. What do you think happened in there? If they didn't have a strong foundation, and really work really well together before that, which was like 90% of the people, something happened. A divorce, whatever. So I'm looking at that, that's what I lived through. That's what I was inside of. And then I ran away from home when I was 16 with the same thing. Same idea. Where do I go? So I landed in Rome, Italy. My dad was there, but my dad wasn't, he got engulfed by all of these things. He forgot the purpose. He was holding to it as much as possible, but we were really good friends. We had such an amazing, he was highly intellectual. He knew world history. He had a lot of these amazing skills, but absolutely that piece of the freedom really took him. And so I was there, and pretty soon I was on the streets there. So I'm in one of the largest cities in the world with the longest standing history in the world. 16. Somehow, some way, Romanian is a Latin language. Even if it sounds very Slavic, it's a Latin language. And so Italian was very easy for me. So I picked that up. So I had to figure it out. And how do you figure out in that space? Some people, are good and help you. Other people want whatever you have at that point. It's a free market economy. We're exchanging all kinds of things and we're going to get them however, And so I was like, wow, the Vatican is in this town here, highly spiritual. The Lord Almighty lives in the, all these amazing buildings and then just on the side streets, there's so much pain, so much dirt, so much just of all of that. And so I remember this one day where I said, I was like a Fontana di Trevi, it's called. It's actually, I wasn't at Fontana di Trevi. I don't even remember what that one is called. But it was somewhere by the train station. I was sitting there and I was like, oh, God. I think that's one of the first time when I really prayed truly to God. God, can you help me? I promise I'll do everything right. I envision myself with my family here one day and everything will be okay. Because I lived on the streets there. I don't have to go into detail. I'll just leave that for interpretation. Buy my upcoming book. What did I do on the streets of Italy? But that was like such a big lesson. But I didn't learn it or I didn't understand it until later. Again, me coming here to Lebanon, Missouri, and truly diving deep into my faith, which, and I want to give a shout out to Heritage Baptist and the people that work there, the leaders. They're just so involved in personal life. And I feel like they've really been able to show me where I was looking at this. I've been so lucky and I'm so special, and I was able to go through all of that. A lot of trauma is related to that. I must be like some kind of special guy. I survived all of that, and look at me, look where I'm at. But they really brought it to light. Like, no. There's going to be some tears here, okay?
No, absolutely.
From me. and it's just so beautiful to see that there are good things that you can good jails.
Yes. No, and that's, and I hate saying the word jail, but that's kind of, it's the best possible confining, restrictive thing. When I started thinking about that, what was I watching? I was watching something. It was about prisons and the fact that people go to prison and they have their own ecological system and own society and they survive. Like, we were very resilient creatures, right? And but I was watching them, and like, they have their whole structure, everything that we do out there, they just recreate because somebody says, hey, you got to go here. So somebody picked that for them. Yeah. But generally, moralistically, and I have thrived. I used to be that guy that just would like Tasmanian devil through life. And once I started picking my jail cells, once I started picking how I do it, I actually had relationships that sustained. I actually had careers that sustained. I actually had things. I didn't blow up my life every 30 minutes. And I've always called it. This is the jail cell that I picked.
Yeah. And I think what's important is to be conscious about it. Yeah, that's a big piece of it.
I think the other thing that kind of goes in that, when we say jail cell, because it's confinement.
Yeah, let's use that.
Is consequence is a neutral term. We all look at the word consequence as a negative term. Oh, here's the consequences. No, you have to look at consequence as an absolutely neutral statement, right? If I do A, B is going to happen, right? And consequences are both. Consequences are mixed. There's rarely ever times are purely good or purely evil or purely whatever. So I just started looking at consequence as a cause and effect issue and not a negative thing, right? And that really helped me too. Like, hey, I can go to this party. I can get blasted out of my mind. I can do that. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. But what are my consequences?
Yeah.
Right.
Back to my story. And I think that's going to like really bring it together with this idea of like, what's important really in life, and how do we live a good life? How do we bring resilience inside of our life? And we're dependent on the community, and then we can have the community dependent on us. There's this interdependence kind of thing, right? Lebanon now has a huge role in that. Sun and Bloom Farms has a huge role. Boatown Brewery has a huge role, and everybody, right? I mean, the drug dealer at the corner has a huge role. So, what do we believe that's important? Who do we want to support, and all of that, right? What's important in our community? What voices to? And this is why you invited me with that kind of like idea. Okay, what kind of value can we bring out of here? There's something to learn. Either if Lucian was an idiot, and
we're all learning something today, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I fully believe, and I think I'm right there with you. I fully believe, kind of like how we're doing the election stuff, whatever. I've got to travel a lot and had this big worldview, right? Yeah. And I did that come home thing that you're talking about, and I started realizing that we're inundated with social media, TV. I mean, marketing, that's what I do for a living, right? We're inundated with all these things, and we forget what's right outside of our front door, right? And the status, and one of the things that I've always wanted to do in some way is start affecting right outside of your front door. The reason why we took on the election coverage and did all the election coverage and stuff was simply because you look at the voter turnout for local elections is abysmal across the board.
Yeah. I almost wanted to go vote after watching a few.
Right. But they're abysmal just nationwide. Local elections are awful. Yeah. They're the ones that affect you the most. Whether your sidewalk gets fixed, whether your school is funded correctly, what goes on in your school, what your kids are taught, what the streets look like, local tax, what you pay at the all of that is affected by your local election, and less than 15% of people come and vote in them, and it infuriates me. Yeah. Right. So this is a years-long process of we had tens of thousands of people, unique people, check in on our election coverage this year, and only like 2,500 went and voted. I'm hoping next year maybe we get 2,700. But the next year maybe we get 2 or 3, because we're trying to bring that effectiveness home to our front door.
Yeah. And again, it's like what's the important conversation to be had in a local community?
Yes.
What's important? What are we communicating? Are we focusing on, and that's not just like local, but everywhere. Are we focusing on all? I mean, if you turn on the news, it's all bad, negative. I have like a few, there's this one, it's called Global Positive News. And sometimes it pops in my Instagram. Sometimes I have to look for it just for a little piece of like, and I came here so I got my visa one day before 9/11. I went home. I'm going to America.
So very briefly, because I want to make sure we get the story in today. And we've probably got about 40 minutes. So,
okay.
But very briefly, how do you go from a 16-year-old living on the streets of Italy to getting a visa for America?
Oh man, that's the story of a movie.
Gotcha.
I'll make it as simple as an American angel showed up. I engaged with it probably after I prayed at that.
Right.
I don't know if it was the next day or not. And we engaged in conversations and all that. This is a fully grown man. He was, I think, my age at that time. No, he was younger than me.
Yeah.
And this guy was crying the entire time. And I was like, you're not a man. Because
the machismo. Yeah,
the machismo was coming from.
Yeah.
I'm on the streets. And now I get it because I ball like that.
I'm still too broken to cry. Maybe I'll get there one day.
Yeah. And so this man was like just crying, just seeing my life, hearing about my life. Why are you here? Why? He couldn't get it because he had money to pay for a ticket to stay at a hotel and see, ancient culture of Rome. And so
your pain is his tourist attraction.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine, and he shifted from what he was there for to like hear my conversation. And then, at one point in that conversation, he said, well, what do you want to do in life? And I was like, well, I would like to do what you're able to do. So, how are you able to do? What do I need to do for that? And it was pretty interesting because he said, well, you'll have to get an education. But what's interesting is to say that he didn't truly have an education, like going to school, like he had community college and all that. And I said, okay, that's what I want. And he said, I'll help you. Why don't you go back home to your mom and all that? And so this was in about August, September. But I was like, yeah. My mind was definitely somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, can this guy give me some money to buy some brand new shoes and a jacket and, whatever, something like that. And so then I went back home to Romania 3 months later because I still tried. I was holding on to this idea of how I'm going to make it. How is it going to be? Because, I left Romania exactly because there was that crazy chaos. And I thought that in the West, I'm going to find this beautiful, amazing, the red carpet, welcome to the West.
Yes.
You get a house and the car and everything is peaceful and great. But of course, like you heard my story, right?
Yeah.
And and I did go home, and then he started to support my family. And then he came to see, and man, was he crying then. My mom spoke no words of English. He spoke no words of Romanian. I was kind of the translator. But they were able to just sit face to face like this and just cry. Like they were communicating through that, Again, that I will never understand. Maybe I need to like dig deeper into that. So he wanted to bring all of our family there, seeing like kind of the situation. We weren't like, living in a tent or anything, but absolutely you can sense like what was happening. And so, unfortunately we weren't all able to get the visa, but I was one day before 9/11. And so I'm going home. I'm going to America. And all my friends like, look what's happening.
Yeah.
But again, I'm bringing God back into this. I was able to get on an airplane, fly to the United States, LAX. They had all of this, like the security was like insane. It took a while for me to connect with him. And then I'm like, being picked up in a Beamer, BMW, driving on the Southern California coast, putting the window down, saying, I love America.
Just a scene from every movie, right?
And so this guy had no clue what he was doing. It's like, there's more to say about that, but he was just committed to that.
Yeah.
And I think that was like one important thing that I'm reflecting on right now. What does it look like to say you're going to do something and do it? And that's kind of like that integrity.
That follow through, yeah.
Like, do what you say. And I've had difficulty a lot in my life with that.
Oh, yeah.
But I get, it's like now I'm trying to hold on to it as much as possible. It's not easy. And so, integrity, I see it like, do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't do it, acknowledge that you didn't do it or you can't do it, and then say, I'll do my best to, right? So that's kind of like integrity. And then you're going to mess up again and again and again. And so, that's a pretty big lesson from this human being that's still in my life. And we still communicate. We still, he's still super supportive of my life. And I think one of the biggest things is that, because of this rescue, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And, I was so attached to looking up to him. His name is Jeff. And so, he was just a human. Mm-hmm. And again, that brings me back to community.
Right.
The role of community, the role of having all of these pieces of information and knowledge and wisdom that come. It's kind of like the same with the kids. That's why the kids are supposed to go to school, because otherwise they'll be exactly like their parents.
Yeah.
And so they go to school, so they're kind of like their parents, but also like...
They have some outside influences, yeah.
So, so he's like, man, so he sent me to school. I went to school. I went to a private high school because I couldn't speak English.
Yeah.
They put a lot of attention in me. The entire school was... all the kids that were going there were kids of rich immigrants. So the entire school was South Koreans, different Indians from different parts of India, Arabs, Africans. So welcome to America.
Yeah. When they say a melting pot, you got thrown into that.
So that was like really powerful. And then I wasn't able to go to a regular university right away because, again, English was still a pretty big barrier. I mean, I knew all the good words from the movies.
Right. And you can say, you were talking about, the Latin-based languages.
Yeah.
I don't know what they based English on. The best thing that I ever heard was it's like 3 languages in a trench coat pretending to be one.
It is Latin. It has a lot of Latin root in it.
It does.
Big pieces of it. It's probably one of the most simplified languages. Mm-hmm. So maybe we can go in that conversation, but really quick, like if you look, for example, the ingredients or explanations of like how this thing was made on a product in, let's say, Italian versus English. The Italian one is really long and big and chunky. The English one is like really small.
Yep. So
it's almost like you're missing the essence of what you're eating. The Italians have to tell you everything. And I went to a community college. I played basketball there. And again, I'll bring in that conversation of the freedom to choose.
Yeah.
The competing messages. I mean, I was like, I'm in America. Somebody is like taking care of me, sending me to school. I got all kinds of scholarships. I didn't even do the applications myself. But I mean, what do you think I did? I didn't do any of the extreme partying.
Yeah.
But absolutely I enjoyed my time.
Oh, yeah. You're going to win in Vegas. Yeah.
So, and in the same time, I started to, there were these different voices, these different people in my life that absolutely kind of were showing me and telling me what's right, what's the direction. And I also was passionate. I mean, being in this country, I think the biggest thing that got me in the beginning was like, wow, there is this sense of peace and abundance, and there are these places where people are orderly and, kind to each other, and it's clean, it's organized, people respect each other. I think that was the biggest thing that I realized. And my culture, especially after the communist collapse, just that respect, it was tough. People were just like always kind of like in a constant kind of like conflict because there was like that new competition. It's like, who's going to take mine? And so I'm coming to this country where people are like, hi, welcome, sir. I was like, sir, I'm a young man. But, that was so, a cop, when he first stopped me, in the car driving, it's just like, good evening, sir. I was like trembling. Yeah. I was getting ready to be like slammed on the ground, cuffs on and everything, like in Romania.
And he's just like, hey, what's up? Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah. It's like, you were going 90 and a 70, right? It's like, oh, whoops. But yeah, that sense. And so the thing that got me in the beginning was like, I need to do something for my country. So that was the driver. We're talking about the trauma that's kind of informing a lot of these things, right? That was the driver at that point. And so I knew that I have to go to school. I didn't know exactly how that's going to look like. So I was in the community college, and then I applied to different colleges, and then Hawaii was the first one that answered. And with some financial help and all that. So I went to Hawaii. That was an amazing time. I got a bachelor's in international relations. Whew, did that blow my mind? Because I was coming from such a small understanding of what's happening to, almost like carrying like some guilt, because now I was already like starting to embody this, like I live in the West, I'm in the West, there's all these opportunities. Yes, there's all these crazy things, but there's all these good things. And then, I think I got in a little bit of a depression from that. And then there was a particular professor. His name is Ken Schooland. He's an amazing author. He wrote this book that's called The Adventures of Jonathan Gullible. And it's a free market odyssey kind of thing. It has like this idea of, anyway, like what's good and how different thinking, economic and political thinking, are influencing the world, and really powerful. And he kind of like really took a liking to me, of how I was speaking, what I was saying, what I was observing. He failed me 2 classes, my only 2 classes I ever failed, just to kind of tell me, is like, you want to get somewhere? And this is not the only person that did that to me, actually. You want to get somewhere? Be serious. Get serious. Do your work. I think the communication was be serious rather than like, party, I'm in Hawaii. Yeah. And then I had another one, which was very interesting. A woman. She was the head. Regina was her name. She was the head. So I applied for a master's program. Well, actually, she kind of influenced me. So one time, and I'll say it. I'll recognize it. I did inhale. So she sensed that, and she took me by the collar and said, dude, you have the best papers, the best ideas. You express yourself in the most amazing ways. But if you continue to do this, you're not going to do anything. So it was scary because she was a shorter woman than me, and she grabbed me by the collar and said that. I was like, whoa. And so I went and I got in a master's. Wow, did that blow my mind. The master's was in global leadership and sustainable development. So both looking at what does leadership look like, organizational change, how do systems work, and then sustainable development was all about, okay, what's happening out there on the planet ecologically in combination with industry, and everything else. And so that was super powerful. That opened up my eyes, like deeply. And I started to really love reading, really love researching. I lived in a frat house, quote unquote, and the parties will it started to shift. Yeah. Where that wasn't interesting to me anymore, even though I would have a beer and I would already begin. I think that was a blessing. That I would get like easily drunk, And so it started to shift where, downstairs would be, yay. And I would be upstairs being like, oh, like, okay, really? Like, here's the history of the Ottoman Empire. Yeah. And from an economic point of view, from a social point of view, from a cultural point of view, how did that influence the people? Oh, now it makes sense that they wanted to come in Romania and take this land and all that. It was just fascinating. And just like these little pieces started to like kind of come together and just tell me, it's like, hey, I read this that was like super incredible. That said, the moment you realize your historical role, your life is gonna just like make complete sense. So first I was like, oh, I must be this great man that does great things. But then I realized it's just like, later I realized it's just like that small piece. Like, how can you contribute in a way that, and I just couldn't grasp it. It's like, how am I going to be able to be part of peace,
right,
and prosperity, and just good, and just order not in a way of like, the communist order, like do that, but like something that people are inspired by and they want to do it and all of that. And it was hard to grasp it. I mean, it's still hard for me to grasp completely that, but I see how small steps to like the capacity of everyone, like how they have such a big influence. I mean, on everything that happens. And so the biggest answers that I got was when I started to study more nature, environment, ecology. So the ecology is the study of relationships in an ecosystem. And then I get to this, like, it's so funny to even say it. Everything is connected.
It is, though.
I mean, there's so many things we can talk for so many hours that you and I just exchanged atoms since we've been here.
Oh, yeah.
Just through our breath and all that. Now Anyway, so that I was like, okay. And I think from the moment that I realized that in Hawaii, when I was in Hawaii and I was doing my master's degree, I was like, well, okay, I'll be part. And then my thesis was actually studying a chat group environment. This was 2011. It was fairly new, but it was kind of in the beginning of this public chats where people would meet. I mean, we didn't have Facebook. I think it was MySpace. And it wasn't used yet how we're using Facebook today.
Oh, no, not at all.
I'm talking about live videos and microphones. And I studied that. So first you have to do a literature review to see what did people study about it there. And I was like, oh, what I'm thinking about hasn't been thought about. And then so I'm looking at that and I say, first I'm reading all of that to see what the theories are out there. And then I'm going to go inside of there and see and study the community further. And I'm talking, I was going in chat groups from United States on different subjects, chat groups in Romanian. I mean, I was passionate about that. People spoke my language, right? So studying that and then see what are the themes, what are the threads, what would I call it? What was the word I was looking for? I think you get. I was looking at like how are things happening naturally.
The commonalities.
Yeah. Who's talking more? Why are they talking more? What's their background? Who's leading? Who's not leading? How can fights start? Where are good conversations? I mean, because you can only imagine people chatting in a place where nobody saw them. They're like,
Yeah.
Anyway, there are like a lot of hours where I was like, oh, okay, when can I say a word?
Yeah.
And then come up with a hypothesis on like how would it look like for me to introduce some of these concepts that I'm talking about, like ecology, environment, like this is important. And again, from the beginning, I wasn't this radical person that was saying like we're dying, we're bad, we're destroying. I started with this idea that there's all these competing things and we have the right, quote unquote, to listen to all of them and just, maybe this conversation needs to be so strong that when people take it in, they get this is important and I can take on this concept, on this idea of living life differently, supporting, in the context of like food growing again, supporting local farmers, ecological farmers, reduce my chemical use, be aware of like how I'm using energy and water and, all of these resources, right? So I started to do that and that came out pretty cool. Not necessarily that I had an influence, but like what was learned from that, what's effective and all that. So that kind of like took me in that direction. I was like, okay, I kind of know how to communicate these things, but I was still very attached to the outcomes. I still really wanted people to really transform their lives and all that. I got a job. My first job was I was working for the city of San Clemente. I wrote their first beach ecological management policy, which meant that they're going to stop, not stop, but think about how can they protect the local ecology of the beach. And that was kind of like enlightened self-interest. It wasn't just like, oh, let's help these birds and these like worms and these things, but actually that ecosystem was holding the beach in place, which was the problem of the beach. They were like, why is the sand disappearing every year? Well,
because it's a functional ecosystem that everything's connected.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like there's cycles.
Yeah.
We want to talk about that conversation, right? There's cycles. In the winter, the waves come and they take the beach away. And then in the spring, they start to deposit it back. So in the summer, you have this beautiful beach back. But because they were raking the heck out of that beach and, to make it look pristine and all that for people, well, now the waves were eating further and further and further where, all these ecosystems, the bird was eating the crab and it was pooping, and now a plant had nutrients, and now the plant was getting roots, and now the bug was able to eat some of that plant, and again, connected, right?
Yeah.
And then the humans come in and rake all of that out. That's broken, but then also what the humans want is gone. So I wrote that. That was like pretty cool. And the woman that I was working under, she was super passionate. It's like, finally somebody that, is passionate about this stuff and kind of like can present it. And I was talking to all kinds of people, and that's where I was, again, getting into that space of like, man, all of these competing conversations that are influencing people's, like some people like in the council, they couldn't even hear this because, again, you talk about ecology, you throw that word in there, oh, there goes the hippie or whatever, And so, I learned early that language is important and how that is. I knew that when I came to Lebanon. Jeff told me, because he's from the Midwest, by the way. That's how we got to come to the lake. Now we're connecting, right? And so he said, be careful. Midwesterners are very different than your Cali and your Hawaii world. Yeah. And I knew that because I traveled here.
Yeah.
Okay, so after that, I took a job with a nonprofit consulting firm that was working with LA County that was helping municipalities, the county, and also regular people through different educational and training campaigns to reduce energy use, but also implement efficiency technology, basically, energy efficiency technology. And of course, my mind was way beyond that. I was feeling, we're talking 1956 things and we're in 2015 or whatever it was, 2013. And so I helped create like some beautiful language for public education campaigns, and then go into city councils. I had that experience, right? Yeah. Talking to city council and to people, and that was like really awesome. We're almost there.
No, we're good. We're good.
That was really beautiful, but man, working for somebody, for that company, that was kind of restrictive to me. When I worked for the city, I had this openness to do these different things. This woman really knew where I was. She mentored me. It was like dynamic and all that. In this space here, it's like there were certain tasks that I was like, man, like I can't just be like, I want to be out there. I want to talk. I understand doing my research. I wish I had AI then.
Right. Yeah. No, no kidding.
Oh, the PDFs, how many PDFs I had to write to read in order to come to like one paragraph conclusion. Just like,
yeah. So my big thing I'm very dyslexic, right? So it was a struggle for my education and all of that. And now it's easy. Like it reads dyslexia. It's like, I'm sure it thinks I'm half the time just punching my keyboard, but it figures it out. It's great.
And I do want to share something about the use of AI at one point here, and I think we're getting more to the present. Since you wanted to ask me how did I get to Lebanon, Missouri, this story's long, but after that, I was driving. Well, I was taking the train all the way to LA from San Clemente. It was about hour and a half train ride. Sometimes I would miss the train. I would drive my car 2 hours, and then one night, I was driving on the freeway. I was like suit and tie, shiny rims and all that. The car was super clean. But I was so tired and so just out of it, just like on the freeway, just not there. I don't know if I was thinking about anything or anything. And then so there was an accident and a car just kind of like flipped right in front of me. And I was like, it just kind of like woke me up. Like that was like, wow, there's something that's being told. And then the next day I drove to work. And when I drove back, I passed by this place. I wanted to stop by and check it out. And I was suit and tie, really nice. All these people were digging holes and planting trees. And I just went in there and started doing that. 3 days later, I quit my job and I started volunteering at this place because I felt like doing that was a little bit, I don't know, more in tune with what was happening. Yeah. And so I was married with somebody else at that time. My wife at that time, she was like, "You're insane." She could not understand. She was super corporate. She's really actually, I've seen a news about her just the other day. I mean, she's super high up there in the world, still in the world of energy efficiency and renewables and all of that. She was very professional, and I was like, oh man, this feels just so different. And I was volunteering, and it was a nonprofit organization, pretty low budget, but with really big heart. And it just was complete match with where I was. But I was, again, I was moving away from that. Like, now I was like entering this world of like suit and ties and talking this complicated language, and here's the kilowatts you would save by transforming all of the things. And I was like, oh, I think I'm selling something for some company right now. Well, whatever, energy efficiency. Yeah, right. Oh, wow. 5 years later, you need new bulbs and new technology to like, anyway. Which is fine. That's another conversation to be had. Some people would say from my realm, it's like, oh, that's like these companies, they get you in the cycles. Anyway, we can go in that conversation in the future. It's just that the way technology works. When this microphone is going to be broken, you're going to buy a new microphone so that you can do your work, right? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I started to do that. I started to volunteer, and then I'll say it, God Almighty opened up a position for me. And so there was a public programs, which meant that I would be charged in coordinating education for the people. And then they saw that I was so eager and so effective at things. They made me the volunteer coordinator. And then they also made me the landscape design lead for the thing. And so I was in the community just doing all these things. I was having a blast. I was like, whoa, because I could see now the impact of my work more than like the beach ecology policy, which now in year 3, they're finally, you can see some birds on the beach, compared to this one right now, people are coming in, they're learning, then they call me to come help them do a design. Then they say, can we get the community together to build these raised beds and all that? And I was like, whoa. And so I was involved in designing like neighborhood gardens. I mean, in these amazing Orange County, California, just, all the funds were there for everything. Oh, $100,000. Yeah, sure. Let's get the soil and the wood.
Just get it tomorrow.
Fine. Some, dill and parsley and cilantro. That's amazing. People would be like, man, you can go get that cilantro for $1, at the grocery store. It's like, that was like a $20 cilantro.
Yeah, I spent $1,000 building a garden and 26 hours of my life and all this to buy a tomato. That's $1.
You've seen those memes. Yeah. But in the long term, that's the thing, that tomato that you grow in every year, the health benefits, the long-term benefits, and not just like physical, mental. I mean, we can go in the I can cite some sources on that, and it doesn't have to be like this kind of names that would trigger a lot of listeners. I got good citations, you know. And you can put one version for one people and one version for one people. Okay. So with that said, that was really
we got about 9 minutes.
Okay,
so,
that was really powerful. And then I decided that I wanted to do it myself because, again, it started to be so like routine that I had to do for the organization itself. And by the way, I wanted to say, when I was there, that organization was about a budget of $650,000. When I left, it was about $2 million in about 3 years. So with some of like the things. And then that's where I met my current wife, Anna Maria. She was also the director of Community Table, connecting chefs with putting these huge, amazing farm-to-table dinners. And anyway, and now that organization is like a $10 to $12 million a year model in regenerative agriculture. So I was like in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And they're doing amazing work. And so I started to do that on my own at my place in San Clemente, doing design. The house was full all the time. I was doing classes all the time, talking about all possibilities. I mean, that was, I can't believe that was happening so fast. People wanted it. People got it. Yeah. And that's because, none of my language was abrasive.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about the world is ending. We need to get to, I don't know, stop driving your car or something like that.
Right, yeah.
Let's build local resilience. Here's some skills. Let me tell you the story of my people. Let's see how it comes out. So people were just flocking to the place, and I was like, whoa. Then I decided to take a chance, and so we went to and did a lease of a 40-acre farm. Oh, and did people flock to that? What is he doing? How is it working? Why is it working? People wanted it. People wanted to understand it and get it. And so there was a combination of teaching classes, charging for them, having some sponsors, and also, frankly, getting the support of the people that I met along. But the number one person that was supporting this work, who do you think was?
Your wife.
Jeff. He's like, wow. Look at my investment.
Right.
I took him from the street. He can do something. What? You needed $1,000 to buy whatever, to put a garden together for people to like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. And he actually didn't like to be around people that much. He was looking through the, from far away.
He was like, good for you, but I'm going to stay over here. Yeah, I'm going to watch from over here.
I'm going to be my good old,
Yeah.
And so that place there happened during COVID. That was like our second year. And by the way, in the meantime, I was also doing a lot of consulting for local governments for like designing parks, energy efficiency, waste reduction, all kinds of programs, education. We had our first kid. And then during COVID, I remember having all of these letters from the county that wanted me to get a permit for everything that I was doing there. The chicken coop for 6 chickens. I was on a farm, 40-acre farm in the middle of nowhere in Anza, Borrego, California. I was like, why? So that got old, and I was like, okay, honey, it's time. And I was like, Lebanon, Missouri. And so there's more to say about that, but I wanted to complete and say I'm really excited that God blessed me with a life to see and experience a lot of things, painful things and beautiful things, and meet a lot of people and have a lot of opportunities to make mistakes and do good things, and the opportunity to get educated. I'm a reader for the rest of my life. I'm all about knowledge and wisdom of all kinds. Everything brings something to the table. And I'm very grateful that I'm in this position and I'm here. My kids love this place. One of my kids is born here. Aristeos, everybody knows him. He's very loud. And my other kid, Ilios, I love them so much. And my wife, Anna Maria. And it's home. It's been difficult. I'll tell you, the biggest difficulty we had was with ticks, for example, and hot summer.
Yes.
And then, of course, adjusting from a wild California and Hawaii West to absolutely a different type of order of, ethics and worldviews and beliefs. And I'm loving it. And I love being part of this. And I'm learning and I'm excited. And it's home. And, Sun and Bloom Farms, myself, Anna Maria has a similar background with mine, besides the running away from home. But we're all about sharing that. And that's what we're inviting people in. There's no convincing. There is an invitation. Hey, here's some ideas.
Well, thank you for your time, man. And if we weren't, look, we're going to have to do a part 2 because there's so much more I want to talk about. But I'm up against the wall here. I got to do a presentation at noon. So I got to get that. So as you guys at home are watching this, drop your questions in the comments. You are active-ish on Facebook. So drop your questions, comments, stuff like that. And I'm going to invite you back because there's so much more I want to talk about your journey. I just wanted to make sure in this session we got it all in. So this was, I guess, the first episode of what we're going to call Interesting People. Your story is amazing to me on so many levels, because that's the first question I always ask anybody that comes to Lebanon is, how did you get here? And 95% military, because we had a military base like 30 miles up the road, right? So 90% of the time it's military involved in there somehow, that it was a military spouse. It was this. My dad went to the military here, lived here as a kid. But to hear all of everything from you go to a mountain in Romania to that journey to Lebanon, Missouri, that is some significant travel, my friend.
Yeah.
And I want to explore that a little bit more. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. Catch us on all of the sites. I'm sure whoever edits this will put all the graphics all over my face right now. Okay. And yeah.